Celebrating another action-packed year of absolute Batman, we have a cavalcade of comic greats including Daniel Warren Johnson and James Harren, coming together to shine a light on the early days of this much darker Dark Knight. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Absolute Batman Annual 2025 issue number 1, and find out what happens next together, shall we? Alrighty then, so as this new issue opens up, we are treated to another flashback to young Bruce's childhood. His father Thomas is reading a particularly depressing news report about an extremist bombing that has claimed many lives. Being an inquisitive kid like he is, Bruce naturally asks what would drive someone to do something so horrible. And in a scene that I'm sure is all too relatable to parents these days, Thomas doesn't have a good answer for his son. He doesn't know what makes people do the things they do, or even what can be done about it. All he knows is what he's good at, teaching. And maybe if he keeps doing what he's good at, maybe one day he'll make a difference in a kid's life, and that kid will pay it forward, and so on and so on. Thomas then further asks his son what he will do in the future, and, well, hard cut to Batman wielding a flamethrower, as a bunch of very clearly Nazi-inspired flags burn behind him. But how the hell did we get here, you might be wondering? Well, for that we step back again. We see Bruce take an actual trip outside the walls of Gotham City, looking to arm himself for his upcoming crusade as Batman. Again, this is a Batman who, outside of his cape and a few things here or there, doesn't seem to actually build a lot of his own gear. The town that Bruce goes to meet his black market contact is truly blighted. There's a massive tent city made up of those who slipped through the cracks of society, immigrants, the homeless, people who we learn via the gun seller had actually come to this town hoping to build a better life for themselves, only to be left high and dry when the construction company running the project pulled up stakes only 3 months in. Bruce pays his money and goes to collect his armory of mostly non-lethal weapons when he hears a ruckus across the street. It seems that a gang of men in pig masks are threatening to beat up a mother and her child. The gun seller tells Bruce, the city boy, not to get involved, but of course, once a hero, always a hero, and Batman has no choice but to sock these scumbags on the jaw. Unfortunately, though, it seems that everyone in this town is quite literally against him as the gun seller hits him from behind. Oh geez, you mean this black market weapons dealer turned out to not only not be helpful, but also be in league with this local hate mob? Geez, who'da thunk it? The only reason Bruce didn't get his head kicked in by these goons is because a local priest actually threw his body over him. It seems the priest actually knows the boys under these masks pretty well and appeals to their better angels, saying that I've known you all since you're children. Are you really going to kill me in the street? Well, they don't do it, but they sure as hell beat him up. It's also here that we meet the pig masked men's leader, a brute by the name of DJ who has the same Nazi-ass symbol on his neck. When Bruce comes to in the priest's care, we end up learning the whole sad story. Apparently this guy rolled into town not too long ago, riled up the local men and boys, started dripping poison into their ears, gave them something to believe in and an easy enemy to hate. Furthermore, this priest isn't just some regular old holy man, he's actually one of those ultra cool activist priests that protested against wars and stuff. Though these days he doesn't exactly feel like he's doing a lot of good. He can't even stop these guys from planning to wipe out the encampment later that night. Well, the priest can't stop them, but Batman most certainly can. We see DJ amassing his forces outside the tent city. A police cruiser pulls up and you might think, oh geez, are they going to try and stop him? Only for DJ and the cops to share a hearty laugh with one another. Man, you know what? Rage Against the Machine really nailed it when they said some of those who work forces are the same that burn crosses. But you know, at least this is a comic book fantasy, right? I mean, it's not like the American police are actively throwing in and assisting mask-wearing hate mongers as they target marginalized communities, am I right? Oh, no, wait. The bad guys assail the camp, and just about when DJ is ready to give what is totally not a Roman salute, the Dark Knight swoops on in and breaks his freaking arm in one of the most visceral and violent panels I think I've seen all year. Goodnight, white pride indeed. Geez, I know what you're thinking, that's pretty damn balls to the wall. What the hell could they possibly have planned for an encore? Well, I was shocked too, but Batman ends up picking up one of the dirty cops and gives him a goddamn one-winged angel. Don't know what a one-winged angel is? Well, it is the signature finishing move of AEW wrestler and Canadian icon Kenny Omega. Daniel Warren Johnson is, of course, a massive fan of putting wrestling moves in his comics, and yes, the real Kenny Omega saw this today, and yes, he thought it was cool, which just warms my heart. Batman goes about systematically dismantling these neo-Nazis piece by piece, even delivering their downed leader the mother of all knuckle sandwiches. Only before he can go too far, the priest actually ends up stepping in once again to protect DJ. And it's right around here the story ends up getting really interesting, as Batman's own sense of morality is called into question by the priest. The priest says that none of this will make the situation any better. Hell, he doesn't know how to make the situation any better short of throwing his own body at the problem. He just knows that killing is not his way. And again, remember, this is a Batman earlier on in his career in a darker, more twisted world where evil has always had the edge. How did this Dark Knight come to his no-kill policy? Well, we're seeing it right here before our very eyes. The priest's words end up ringing in Batman's ear, and while he admits that his way is different than the father's, that still isn't going to stop him from seeing this problem through to its natural conclusion. It's also here that Batman ends up uncovering a massive industrial earth mover. Yeah, hey, how about that? This isn't just a story about Batman coming to his own unique take on the no-kill rule, but this is also a story about how Batman found his first Batmobile. The Dark Knight decides to drive his new ride directly through where the rest of DJ's men are hiding out, and when that doesn't prove to be enough, he gets out and decides to shoot at them with a flamethrower. Yeah, this Batman won't kill, but he will certainly maim. Not to worry though, the priest was pulling up the rear again. The priest has his ways, Batman has his own, and they have both very clearly dedicated their lives to following their particular callings. In fact, hey, we flash back once again to see Thomas talking to his son when we realize that Thomas had actually known the priest. In fact, they attended the same protests in their youth. A fact of which that is not lost on Batman at all. In fact, as this first story comes to a close, he begins to wonder that because he disappointed the priest so thoroughly, would his father be equally as disappointed? A fact of which that actually makes him break down and cry a little, but hey, considering that in the first issue of this, he chopped off one of the party animals' arms, I think he got over it. And hey, speaking of the party animals, that leads us directly into the next story. Obviously, the first one by Daniel Warren Johnson has gotten all the media coverage recently because of the very topical subject matter. But for the love of God, I'm telling you, don't skip the backup because it's actually really damn good. We see a detachment of party animals take refuge in a big giant house that belongs to one of their members' families. Unlike the other party animals who turn to a life of crime to try and make some money, it seems that this kid actually came from money and is only doing it for fun and a sense of community. Turns out his family actually made a small fortune flipping churches into mega mansions. He thought him and his gang could hide out here while being chased by Batman, only to be shocked to discover that his father is actually still there. Turns out they haven't spoken in years, and the only reason that Dad isn't in Florida right now is because Mom passed away. Obviously, there is a ton of dirty laundry that needs to be unpacked in this very dysfunctional family, but all of that is going to have to wait, as at that very moment, Batman ends up showing up. Once again, despite being built like an absolute brick shithouse, Batman is able to skulk around like an absolute ninja and take out party animals with his smart cape. The animal's leader, a bigger, nastier looking guy in a cloak, tries to open the dad's safe in hopes of arming himself and standing a chance against the Dark Knight. He even snorts a line of DMT in hopes that it will give him that little extra oomph. How do I know it's DMT? Because he starts raving about cyborg elves a minute later, and I mean, hey, if you know, you know. He also removes his cloak, revealing that he has horrible burns over 90% of his body. Is he one of those guys from the first story that Bruce burnt up? Or just another unrelated party animal that Batman burnt up? At this point, either could probably be true. Batman and the big brutish animal end up getting into a major grappling match while the henchmen run around and grab pots of boiling oil that they had set up at the beginning of the story. And as someone who has always had a fear of boiling oil, when the leader gets hit with the stuff, I have a real visceral reaction. He loses pretty much all of the skin he has left before deciding to set off a bunch of grenades. Batman runs to safety, avoiding the blast, and on his way out, he sees that the father, despite everything that happened, is still cradling his son, who is also injured from the fight. In fact, we can see they actually took cover in front of an old stained glass window of the Mother Mary holding Jesus. Ah yes, yes, symbolism, Mother Mary full of mercy, hear your people, gentle one, friend of sinners, we need your prayer for us, we the children born of Eden, prone to wander from your Son. See, look, I did learn something after 12 years of Catholic school. Now, the third and final story in this annual collection is the shortest, and it's probably the most experimental. It's an entire story told in bat facts, like something you would find on the Animal Planet, interspliced with news and social media feeds about everything that Batman has been up to in Gotham City, not just fighting crime, but also feeding the homeless, reuniting families, and making children in the city feel much more safe. In turn, actually inspiring the people in these communities to actually rise up and become heroes in their own right to one another. And so that was Absolute Batman Annual 2025 issue number 1, everyone, and ultimately I thought this one was a pretty solid little outing. It's kind of interesting, 2 annuals in a row now, it seems that they have actually managed to stick the bigger origin questions for this new Batman into the annuals, which is probably a smart way to do it, which allows the main book to just move full speed ahead. I appreciate too that this collection of stories was actually more thematically connected than these collections of stories usually are. It was about fathers' relationships to their sons and vice versa. How without a strong role model, without someone to believe in, there's a good chance that any one of us could fall astray. And how Batman, even though he is a lot more violent in this universe, he is still striving to be that sort of person for others. In fact, that's exactly why the evil powers that be in this world are so afraid of Batman. He is showing people that there is indeed a better way, that they need not live in fear. It's also just a super cool actioner. Daniel Warren Johnson can write and draw the hell out of a comic. And while I was not nearly as familiar with James Harren's work, he's apparently done a lot of Hellboy and BPRD, you better believe this story here made me a fan, and I can't wait to see what he does in the sandbox next. Overall, I think I'd feel comfortable giving this one an 8.5 out of 10, and I cannot wait to see what happens next, especially as the Absolute Universe is starting slowly but surely to bleed over into the main universe thanks to DCKO. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.